Hey there. We are absolutely swimming in facts and figures every single day. But have you ever really stopped and thought, where does this stuff actually come from? Well, today we're going to trace that information all the way back to its source, the powerful institutions that really shape what we know. So let's dive in.
It's a fantastic question, right? I mean, we're just constantly bombarded with information. But who's the one creating it? Who's collecting it? And who's deciding to share it? I promise, by the end of this, you're going to see the world of information in a completely new way.
All right, first up, let's talk about the big guns, the official sources. We're talking about the institutions that collect data as a fundamental part of their job, to govern and organize society.
Okay, so here's the key thing to get. Governments aren't just in the business of making rules. They are, and I mean this literally, massive information gathering machines. Just as part of their everyday operations, they collect huge amounts of primary data on, well, everything, from the economy to public health.
And just to give you a sense of the scale here, take a look at this. These are all the different ministries in India. We've got agriculture, commerce, culture, social justice. I mean, the list just goes on. Each one of these is its own universe of super specific, authentic information. It's incredible.
But we're not going to stop at national borders. The picture gets even bigger when you zoom out to the global level. You've got these huge international bodies, like the United Nations and all its different agencies, and they are absolute powerhouses of information.
Let me just break it down with a few examples. So you've got the World Health Organization, the WHO, right? They're our go-to for global health data. Then there's UNESCO, which is this giant hub for info on education, science, and culture. And the FAO, which gives us critical knowledge about food and agriculture around the world. Each one is a world-class authority.
Okay, so we've got the official data collectors. But what about totally new information? The groundbreaking discoveries and innovations that actually push humanity forward. For that, we've got to turn to the engines of research.
What's so cool about research and development, or R&D, organizations is that they kind of play two roles at once. As you can see here, they start out as information consumers, soaking up all the existing knowledge they can find. But then, and this is the magic part, they become powerful information generators, creating brand new primary info through their experiments. And finally, they act as disseminators, sharing what they've found with the rest of us.
And this brings us to these amazing groups called learned societies. Take the Royal Society of London. This place was founded way back in 1660. It's been at the center of science for centuries, and it actually published one of the very first scientific journals ever. These societies are all about promoting academic fields and sharing knowledge. And of course, we can't forget universities. These places are so much more than just classrooms. They are research juggernauts. From the science labs to the humanities departments, their faculty are constantly producing new knowledge, and their libraries, they're basically vast treasure chests of human discovery.
So we have institutions that collect data and others that create brand new knowledge. But what happens then? How is all that information saved for the future, and how does it actually get out to the public? Let's take a look. Okay, this is a super important difference to get. Museums versus archives. People mix them up all the time. Museums are all about public display. They collect and care for important objects, artifacts, and put them out there for all of us to see. Archives, on the other hand, are all about preserving unique, often unpublished, historical records. Think of it this way. A museum might have a first edition copy of a famous book, but an archive would have the author's original, one-of-a-kind, handwritten manuscript. See the difference?
And these incredible institutions don't just pop up out of nowhere. Check out the story of India's National Museum. It started with just a blueprint in 1946 and didn't open its doors to the public in its final building until 1960. It's this long, deliberate process that takes decades, all to create a lasting source of cultural information for everyone.
So how does all of this information actually reach you and me? Well, that's where the media and publishing industries step in. They're the ones who take all this raw data and new research and package it up for the rest of us, whether it's in a deep dive book, a breaking news story on your phone, or a primetime documentary.
All right, for our last major stop, we're going to look at a source of information that works totally independently from the government, often starting from the grassroots level and working its way up. I'm talking about non-governmental organizations, or NGOs.
Now, get a load of this number. 1.5 million. That's how many NGOs were estimated to be working in India over a decade ago. It's just a massive, massive sector,
filled with all sorts of groups organized around a common cause.
And what are they all doing? Well, this chart gives you a pretty good idea. They're involved in everything from religious activities and social services to education, culture, and health. That incredible diversity means they're generating information on a super wide range of social issues.
And here's why that's so important. Because NGOs are often working on these really specific, unique projects right there at the community level. Their reports and research are just an invaluable source of primary information. Groups like Child Rights in You or the Center for Science and Environment, they produce data and insights that you just can't get anywhere else.
Okay, deep breath. We've covered governments, researchers, museums, archives, and NGOs. So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? Why does knowing where information comes from actually matter?
Well, it boils down to this. Information is never created in a vacuum. It's always a product of the institution that made it. A government's goal is to govern, so its data is all about populations and economies. A university's purpose is to discover, so its output is brand new knowledge. An advocacy group wants to create change, so its reports are going to focus on making that happen.
And that right there is the single most important thing to take away from our time together. An institution's purpose directly shapes the information it produces. So if you really want to understand a piece of information, you have to start by understanding its source, period.
So I'll just leave you with this question to chew on. The next time you see a fact or a statistic flash across your screen, or you hear about a new discovery, just pause for a second and ask yourself, who's talking? Where is this really coming from? Because that one question is the most powerful tool you have.